Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this Storage Group's pop-up talk. We're really excited to have Bob here to discuss unmanned facilities because he is one of the industry experts in that. Bob, can you give us a little bit about yourself and then let's jump into why you chose to do unmanned facilities?
Sure. Thank you for Christine for having me. I've been in the storage business since the 90s. Worked for Public Storage years ago, worked for Metro Storage years ago, and then went into my own. I'm out on my own back in the early 2000s. Started a consulting business, Self Storage One, back 2001 or two, and been doing it ever since. Do hundreds of feasibility studies and market studies and due diligence projects. Also own properties, own 21 or 22 of my own. Plus, we manage almost 100 for other people, and that's our fastest growing part of our business. Frankly, we're adding. I think my kids told me we added 15 this week, so a lot going on there. And as you mentioned, we only do unmanned automated facilities, both the ones we own as far as the ones that we manage. Um, that's definitely a niche for one thing. There really aren't any other management companies that specialize in just that. There are others that do some of that kind of as an annex to existing facility, larger facilities, but we're the only ones that I'm aware of that do it 100% unmanned, automated, all across the board. And you ask about why we did that, probably because we did facilities with managers for a long time and realized the advantages of going unmanned. I think anybody who's in any kind of business right now, I don't care if it's storage or restaurants or hotels or anything, realizes that the weakest link of most businesses are the frontline employees. And I'm a big fan of managers, but we've had, like most people, a difficult time hiring and keeping and training and retaining over the last several years. And we're not immune to that. Like I said, most people I know are having those same problems, again, storage business or other businesses. And so we have found that between that challenge and the improvements in technology and customer acceptance and abilities, that we can really offer a better customer service experience in the unmanned automated environment than we can ever could with the on-site manager environment. There are certainly exceptions to great on-site managers, and some of the companies out there do a great job hiring those and keeping highly trained managers. But the fact is, most don't. Like I said, we shop thousands of facilities every year as part of our feasibility studies, and frankly, dealing with a lot of on-site managers, again, it's not their fault, is a miserable experience. They aren't very well trained, which again is not their fault. It's the owner's fault for not training them. But it can be a miserable experience whether you do it on the phone or in person. And the environment we've created is we just get better reviews. Have a much better customer service experience by doing that. Our whole environment is based on a call center environment. We really don't necessarily call it that because that really now is the managers now are those call center agents. They're the ones that take every payment, rent every unit, handle the auctions, handle customer service issues, take care of the revenue management system that we do. And that now is, instead of having someone sit there all day at a self-storage property who might get a chance to rent a unit today, we instead have a large number of people doing this from home with the automation we have and the systems we have in place. They can do that much more effectively and efficiently than ever having all those on-site managers on site. For example, right now, the 20 some facilities that I own personally, they are in the hands of a handful of highly paid, well-trained, well-motivated call center agents instead of 20 something on-site managers, close to minimum wage. Let's face it, it's not a great high-paying job. And so we can just find that easier. In the environment where you have on-site managers at every facility, if any of those managers quit, die, get fired, have to take time off, then you've got to scramble to have someone else there. Where in our environment, we have a lot of call center agents that if any of them leave for whatever reason, there's a bunch of other ones to do the same job, to answer the phone, to handle the oversight of the overflow. So we don't miss that customer service thing. So you mentioned before about advantages versus disadvantages. Clearly, there are a lot of advantages. I think first and foremost is the expense. I mean, obviously, you take any self-storage property that currently has an on-site manager payroll, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and reduce that to $12,000 a year for someone. obviously your value goes up immediately. That's first and foremost. But it's not even the best reason for it. Another reason for it is we find that when we buy an existing facility that has an on-site manager, our income goes up automatically or immediately when we don't no longer have an on-site manager, because automation doesn't know you can waive a late fee. It doesn't know you can discount. It doesn't know you can take a partial payment. It certainly can't steal. And so we take over a property that's making X dollars. Immediately ours goes up because a lot of those things no longer exist. We don't waive late fees. Nobody can take a partial payment in that environment. So we like that. But I think the third reason that we like that model better and will continue to do it is that we can provide a much better customer service experience. Again, we have agents that are much better trained. You think about it and it just makes sense. Someone who does any kind of job 50 times a day is going to be better than somebody who might do it once. So when you have call center agents who might take 100 calls and rent units and do all that, they're just going to be better at it. I mean, it's just practice, 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 where it's very difficult. And I think anybody who is on-site managers would admit to this. It's very difficult to train on-site managers to consistently be good at renting units, doing those things, because they don't do enough of it anytime. So we like that. I think technologies have made it. I mean, most people now rent units before they get to the facility. They don't need somebody sitting there all day to do that. They rent units either online, through the phone. All of our facilities have QR code signs that people can literally point their phone at a QR code and rent a unit. Makes it very easy to do. And we've done this both with existing, we've done it with lease up properties from ground up, never even had an office ever in it. The size of facilities don't seem to matter. We've got facilities that are 20,000, we've got facilities that are 80,000 square feet and still operate just as efficiently. You got to have a lot of signage so people know what to do and where to go, and kind of some "you are here" signs so people know in a multi-story building where they are. But otherwise, it's really not that difficult. Now we do have, and when anybody says unmanned or unattended, no facilities are 100% unmanned. Somebody has to go by there every now and then, right? Somebody has to go by there. And in our case, somebody goes by every property at least once a week. Some cases, 2 or 3 times, depending on the property. But what do? They go by there and pick up trash. They vacate units every now and then. They cut a lock. Same stuff that a manager would do on site, except they aren't there every day to do it because they don't need to be there every day. So we cover that way. Now, you said, are there some disadvantages? I think there aren't very many, but certainly there are cases. For example, if somebody drops a piece of trash today, it might not get picked up for 4 days. Instead of being picked up today. I mean, there's little things like that that you certainly aren't capable of doing if nobody's there all day. Now, and I've had people mention that to me from a standpoint of, they're reluctant to go to that model. I can assure you, after shopping 1,000 facilities, most managers don't pick up the trash every day anyway. So that's a minor issue, but the fact is they just don't. So if there is a negative, that might be one. Somebody's asked me, do you guys think you ever miss a rental every now and then? Maybe, but we make up for it by having people that are much more professional on the telephone renting units than the fact that we might miss one every now and then when somebody pulls up and nobody's there to actually help them do that. Again, I think between all the signage and everything we have, it's really not that difficult. And so the ones we own, and like I said, we also manage almost 100 properties for other people in that model, because we found that a lot of people really like that model. They can take a property that might have otherwise been financially less than viable because of the payroll and make it viable by not having on-site payroll. They like not having the personnel issues of people coming and going and rehiring people, which is a nightmare, we all know. And so, we found that, and really we started the whole management side of it organically because we had to figure out a way to manage our own, because there really weren't any good. And we tried a couple of the other industry call centers who I like them all. We recommend a lot of them, but none of them are really geared up to do unmanned facilities. They expect someone to be there. They don't do a lot of things. Like none of the on-site the call center out there do outbound calls. They don't call past dues. They don't do anything outbound, only inbound. When you're unmanned, somebody's got to do that. And so we had to bring in our own call center, which then grew into a management company. We realized how many other people out there liked the model, but they didn't really have anybody in place to manage the day-to-day and do that. And the call center is probably the biggest piece of that, because let's face it, most people aren't big enough to have their own call center. and they try to recreate it with one or two people, and it just doesn't work. So that's where our growth has come, and people really like that model. We've had people that start off giving us one property, now they're up to their 19th. I mean, that's just because of the way they like that model and how it grows. And it gives people who like the art of the deal, so to speak, and like out there looking for properties, it gives them the luxury of doing that without having to worry about the day-to-day of managing their self-storage property. So that's why the management side is growing leaps and bounds, frankly. And so we keep, we have the resource, we keep hiring more agents, we keep hiring more district managers. And the way we manage is we run everything for you. We do everything. We take every payment, rent every unit, do past dues, make the collection calls. We have district managers who assign properties who go by and visit the properties on a regular basis, as well as the on-site people. And so, we like that model a lot, and we'll keep doing it. And as we build new facilities, we plan that in. We just built a couple this summer that leased up and never had a manager, never even have an office in it. We're getting ready to start another one. And certainly as we buy properties, that's part of our thought process. How do we make that, move it from whatever they're doing to unmanned? It's not expensive to do. It's a matter of adding some signs. It's really, people have asked me how expensive it is to convert. It's not. I mean, signage and locks is about all we do. There are people out there that do the kiosk. We do not do the kiosk. We opted not to do that because, frankly, everybody's got a kiosk right here. I mean, anybody can rent a unit and make a payment with their phone now. So to have a kiosk there to do that, it's just an additional cost, expense. And if it breaks down, they can't do anything. So we don't do that. I've had people offer to give me their kiosk for free because they got tired of using them. Most people don't use them anyway. And so we do that. So again, we like the model, and you got to have a great call center. You got to have a great website. I mean, let's face it, right now, the website is the front door of your facility. That's where most people start interacting with you, is on your website. I'm still surprised in 2022 how many terrible websites there are. I mean, it's funny to me, people will spend millions to build a self-storage property and $50 to build a website. I mean, that makes no sense, but it's common. No rates online, no way to interact with you, no way to take a payment, I don't get that, but people do that. So it works for us. We like it. We'll continue to do it. We'll continue to grow, and that's what we do.
Awesome. So what do the unmanned facilities look like? Are they all gated, enclosed, or can you do the unmanned without having the gated keypad entry?
It really depends. If most facilities, if they've got outside parking or regular drive-up space, they're going to be gated and fenced, just like if a manager was sitting there. There's no difference there. Same thing on a multi-story all-climate building. It doesn't have fences and gates. It's got keypads on the door. So really, that's a great question, Kristina. There really is no difference in how we build them or operate those, except there's no office there. There's nobody sitting in an office all day. Everything else is identical. Same cameras, same gate, same fences, same keypads, no different. If we build a self-storage property that's multi-story with no drive-up, we don't put gates and fences in it, whether there's an office or not. If it's got parking, there has to be a gate and a fence. If it's got drive-up space, there usually is. Depends on the neighborhood you're in there, honestly. But really, I get that asked a lot, and I'm glad you asked that. There isn't a lot of difference between that. And some people have asked, well, what about theft and stuff like that going on? Well, first of all, if you have a manager there all day, theft doesn't happen during the day. It doesn't make any difference whether a manager's there or not. Stuff happens at night when nobody's there anyway. So we do it. We accomplish the same things. We have gates, camera systems. We put disc locks on every unit. So we reduce that. There's no way to eliminate it 100%, but it wouldn't have been eliminated with the manager on site anyway. We had one owner who was reluctant to go that way because they were concerned about theft during the day. I said, well, how much theft happens during the day now because of the manager sitting on it? Nothing changes. Theft doesn't happen during the day. So it really is no difference in design. We build a brand new facility. We just don't put an office in there. We actually do put in a little rental center where that's got a big monitor with all of our cameras. So people see it's got cameras and signage of how to interact with us. It's a little 10 by 10 unit. Instead of a 600 square foot office, that's what we do. When we buy an existing facility, if it had an office, we no longer use the office. But what do we do with the office? In some cases, we rent that office out to another business. An insurance agent might want it or something. So we make it a revenue generating piece. In some cases, we convert it to space. In some cases, we needed more climate space, so we turned that office into some little storage units. So we turn it into something. We just don't need it as a self-storage office. And like I said, we like if it's got some parking, letting another business rent it, and that way there's something there going on all day, so it works. We also do U-Haul trucks at a lot of our facilities. U-Haul, like a lot of vendors, have warmed up to the idea of nobody there. So they have a 24/7 program. People can rent trucks with nobody there. So you don't need a manager there to rent U-Haul trucks. People rent them. There's a little lockbox there, and they rent them with their phone, just like they do a storage unit. So, and more, I've seen more and more of the software programs warming up to unmanned. Again, I think the call centers will eventually. Right now, they don't. I think we're the only one that does that for strictly unmanned. But I think eventually they'll have to. That's just the wave of the future. Let's face it, more and more operators are going that way. I see a lot more of the large operators experimenting with unmanned facilities and recognizing that, we don't need two people sitting there all day when it's just not necessary. So I think I see some people run like a hybrid where they may be there 3 days a week, and and that makes sense to me in some cases. So, but really there's no difference in design except we don't build a big office. Otherwise it's identical. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you add that additional revenue source if there is the office, by renting it out, because that I would think that would make the buy even more viable for some people if that's an option to do that for the investors and things.
It sure can. I mean, there are businesses that, because of the location and the lack of parking, maybe wouldn't use it. It's not a good retail space, but it's a great office space for a little insurance agent that just needs a couple parking spaces, or a tax office or something. We have one of our facilities that has a tax office in it. Another one has an employment agency in it for a big car plant. So different businesses that find it. Again, in some cases they're inside a security gate, which they like, even better. And so from that standpoint, it works real well for us. A lot of facilities, we don't have, and this is whether we have manager out, we don't have dumpsters on our properties. I'm surprised how many people still have dumpsters. That just means, hey, if you don't want your crap anymore, throw it in here. And why would you do that? That just encourages people. We have found when we bought properties, when there was a dumpster there, it was always full of stuff and people and crap all around it. We got rid of the dumpster, all of a sudden there was no trash anywhere, because people realize I can't leave my stuff here. We get rid of dumpsters. In some cases, we don't have internet. There's no reason to have internet at facilities. All of our facilities have cameras, but most of them are we can go look at the DVR and stuff if something happens. But frankly, it's just like where I live. I have cameras at my house. Looking at my cameras on the phone all the time, the novelty that wore off years ago. And unless something happens, you don't need. So it's just not necessary, which reduces cost, obviously, for little things. So there's no computer there. Nobody needs it there. So unless you want to look at your cameras, you don't need it. We use almost exclusively spider door keypads that have cellular in them. So we don't have to have internet for those. They work off a cell tower. So they work great for us and interact very well and very reliable keypads for us. And so we've kind of found all these different things to use that make the automation piece work for us. Again, nothing's perfect. The call center folks make a mistake once in a while, just like on-site managers did. Sometimes trash is left there for 2 days instead of 1 day. It's going to happen. But by and large, it works for us. For example, if somebody calls a call center and says, I've moved out of my unit, well, our call center agents they vacate it, but then they put it into needs cleaning. So until somebody sees it on site that it's ready to rent, we don't somebody renting a unit that's full of tires. And so we do that, figure that out. We use the overlocks we use are combination locks. So if somebody pays their bill, the call center agent gives them a combination, they take it off so they can get in their own unit without us having to be there to take the overlock off. So that's easy. So more and more stuff that we do, it makes that process even easier. There was a time when I thought maybe years ago when maybe there was the size of the facility mattered. I'm past that. I mean, we're managing facilities that are over 80,000 square feet, multi-story, and it works perfect for that. It's just got to put more signs in there, like "You are here" signs, and signs throughout the building. If you need something, call us. But again, it's really better than having a manager sit there all day who people would have to go find them. In our case, they just call that number. They're all over the building. And so, we like it. We'll continue to do it. And I think more and more people are warming up to it. And the idea of managing it for other people, give them time to go do something else, I think is really attractive to people.
One last question for you. Do you see, excuse me, that the number of late payments and auctions that you're doing decrease when you go to the more unmanned with your call center because you have the people there to keep on top of all of that?
We do find they go down because, like you just said, we use some automation as far as collections, the texting and auto calling and all that really helps. And again, we have people that are designated to make collection calls for auctions. That's what they do instead of having an on-site manager who is supposed to do it, but hates to do it and probably won't do it. There's certainly no accountability to make sure they're doing it. Where in our case, we have people that's all they do is work on the auction process, and so those tenants get a lot more attention than they normally would have because let's face it, I've never met anybody who likes to do collections. I mean, frankly, if you like doing collections, you should probably be in prison. Nobody should like to do collections, but you have to do them. But people, again, this is not a manager problem. This is an owner problem. Owners spend no money on training. They spend more money on their country club membership than they do training their managers. And it's a shame, and it's their fault. And I've seen this for 20 some years. But you've got to train them how to do collections because nobody knows how to do that naturally. And so, but having people who that's their only focus and they're good at it, and we've trained them to be good at it, we see collections are better than when we ever had on-site managers who just didn't like to do it and did it haphazardly and did everything else but that. So we do see that better, and that's a good question, but we do see it. Of course, we do our auctions online, which I think everybody does now. So that makes it easy. We don't have to be there for auctions. We put the combination on it. Somebody wins at auction. We give them the combination, take the stuff out, and it's real simple. Send us pictures that is clean. We give them back their deposit. And again, you get that process in place. It makes automation and unmanned facilities much more easier to run than ever having managers on site, in my opinion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any last thoughts on this topic before we close this out?
I don't think so. I think, if anybody's out there and they're at least entertain the idea, be happy to talk to you about maybe getting over some of your fears about running unmanned facilities. But I think you'll find it really is the wave of the future and a better way to do things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time with us
Thank
today,
you,
Bob.
Kristina.
Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll be doing this most likely weekly going forward. So we're really excited. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kristina. See ya.